Kia ora e te iwi and welcome to The Tube, coming at you from the studios in Kāmuriwai, Arrowtown. Ko Arrowtown Dad TNA, and we're welcoming back Mikey Found. Kia ora, Mikey.
Hey bro, how are you?
Good, good. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat about doing business offshore.
Yeah, probably a little bit more about work history, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's talk about our own personal work histories working offshore. So, where do we want to start?
Well, I kind of like what you were saying earlier around the China stuff that you were working with in the gaming industry, was it?
Yeah, casino gaming industry.
Yeah,
So,
sounds
it's pretty
interesting.
dirty, and I mean like filthy, grubby.
Yeah, cloak and dagger type.
Yeah, sort of. You were dealing with some unsavory characters, and at the same time, some filthy rich people as well. It was an interesting, very interesting industry to work in. I started off working in casinos in New Zealand, and then I ended up working in the main office in Australia, working for a company over there, Aristocrat. So if any of you have ever played poker machines, you probably played one of the Aristocrat games at one point. So yeah, I worked for that company over in Australia, and it was through them that I ended up working quite a lot overseas, especially throughout Asia.
Cool, bro.
Yeah. So I understand you did a bit of work in China. You had to you travelled over there to do some work over there as well.
Yes, it was on the back of real estate for me. I had some real estate dealings with a Chinese company or a Chinese lady who had some very strong ties back to China, and over a sort of period of 2 to 3 years, we were working with the immigration categories. So obviously the investment levels, $20 million.
Oh, wow.
I think at that stage would pretty much guarantee you a visa, as long as you tick certain boxes with investment and commercial, etc. So
yeah.
I guess I sort of worked from that ground level of obviously having that real estate stock that we could show or sell.
Yeah, right.
But also when they would come in. So there was one trip of 15 came in, landed in New Zealand, and the plan was to bring them down the island to Queenstown, and that's where we'd sort of show them property and commercial and show them the Queenstown buzz, and then they'd move their way back up to Christchurch in a way. So a lot of the sort of the hosting side of things, but then going over there and seeing that sort of, well, where I was, I guess, for my time was that top tier business. So, drinking $100,000 bottles of wine, and
crazy.
It was just unbelievable money that they would spend.
Yeah.
Driving into, these huge brand new hotels. I remember one was called Twin Towers at the time, and but just across the road there was people living in cardboard boxes, and you're drinking your fancy wine, and sitting for dinner with, I remember one dinner we went to was with it was 3 generals from the army sitting around, and the different types of customs where one general came up and he tapped me on the shoulder, and I think he took a sip. And the custom, I think from memory, was if he sips, you sip. Mm-hmm. If he sculls, you scull.
Yeah, right.
So obviously he sculled, so I had to. So it was, very quickly you had to learn to hold your red wine, because obviously they love their red wine over there. So, but yeah, just a different way of doing business, I guess. Across the dinner table is, I guess, where a lot of that the basic stuff is done.
Yeah.
It's really just procedure and motions once you get to paperwork, isn't it?
Yeah. My experience was the same. So much of the business happened at dinner. Once I'm not sure, it may have been sort of similar with you as well, but once the business details were hashed out, then you'd get on it.
It's drinking time.
Yeah. You'd like really get on it. And I work for quite a rich Australian company, so we had a budget to pay for a lot of the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So, we would, because we were paying, customers loved us.
Yeah,
As soon as they saw us turn up, they're like, the aristocrat guys are here. Yeah, let's go out and get shit faced.
So you held the corporate card.
Yeah. And most of the time it wasn't me. So
Mm-hmm.
I was more like a technical sales support guy.
Yeah, okay.
So I would go out and help the sales guys, but the sales guys had the corporate
Yeah,
cards.
gotcha.
So, and we had a rule in our company that whoever the highest level of person that was out to dinner had to pay.
Yes, yeah.
So I was always bottom of the pile, so I never paid.
Nice.
If I was out by myself, or I took some service guys out, then I would pay. But I'd love going to the, to the fancy, schwanky sales ones. Yeah, they were cool.
Company chargeback. We all love that. Or the card itself.
Yeah. So where did you travel to?
So I went to Chongqing, I think that's how it's pronounced, Chongqing, sort of right in the heart of China. So sort of little old Mike flew into, where did I fly into? Hong Kong was my first stopover, and then straight into China, and it was just
straight into the middle of the mainland there somewhere.
Yeah, no English, just full blown. Yeah, it was crazy. Just going through customs and no smiling.
No smiling.
Yeah, do not
They're
smile.
quite efficient. Like one thing I noticed in my time working in China is they're very efficient.
Yeah.
Now, efficient doesn't necessarily mean organised. Because the optics of it is it looks haphazard.
Yeah.
Like, driving around some of the places that we used to drive, it's just crazy mayhem, but there's kind of like a method to the madness.
Yeah. There's protocols in the like roundabouts. Astounded me, and how the flow of traffic would work.
They've got we're talking 2-lane roads with like 5 lanes of traffic. They were just all crammed side to side, and they were all jostling. Not really jostling; they were just sort of moving in sync, even though it was just like absolutely jam packed. People use their. I'm not sure if you noticed this, but I find over in China, people use their horns as a warning, not as an angry gesture.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, the only time anyone ever beeps a horn is when they're pissed off.
Pretty much, or when you toot in the guy that let you drive past them on the highway, or
nice
we toot.
Yeah, I don't get that often, but but I do it. Yeah. But in China, people just toot to say, "Hey, I'm coming up on your side."
Yeah,
so
it's not an aggressive.
No.
Whatever you'd say.
Well, I sort of figured out that there is no point in being road ragey in a place like China, because you'll just die of a heart attack because you'll be road raging 24/7.
Yeah. Did you drive over there?
Yeah.
Oh, you actually drove.
Yeah. Well, in Macau, where I lived in Macau, I actually had a company car.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
We got company cars. We were driving around. I wasn't allowed to drive in mainland China because it's really hard to get a driver's license for mainland China, and like not a lot of people drive in China. But because we're talking 1 billion people, there's still a lot of cars on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I used to drive in Macau, and it was crazy, man.
I could imagine.
Yeah. And then, we'd go to like Vietnam or the Philippines, or I didn't drive in the Philippines. Fuck that.
No way.
That place is crazy,
I've been
man.
there. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. But when I went to Vietnam, we'd get scooters and go riding around on scooters, and that was cool. But it's like Scooterville, man.
Yeah.
There's like 20 lanes of scooters going down the road, eh?
Yeah. Again, organised chaos.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, and so apart from the slush fund trips with the salespeople, what else did you enjoy about your time working over there?
I guess when you're in your own time, it's that ability to go out and sort of explore. When I was coming back, I came back through Hong Kong. That's right, and I had about 4 days before I sort of flew back to Sydney. And I think I spent about 3 days just riding the trains and just going to different little, they're like markets, little towns, and
little towns.
yeah, it's fascinating. And as long as you had a basic sense of where you were and where you needed to get back to, it was pretty easy. Someone eventually spoke English.
So I remember when I went to Shanghai. So I spent most of my time in Southeast China with in Macau, Hong Kong. In that Guangzhou region.
Yes.
So, but occasionally we'd go for trips into mainland China.
Gotcha.
Went to Shanghai, and I really enjoyed Shanghai.
Okay.
I actually really enjoyed China, to be honest.
Yeah.
So what we did was we were just like going around, traveling around, and you go to like the train stations, and of course most things are written in Chinese. There's a little bit of English around, but you get a little bit confused about where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, or where you get your tickets from.
Yeah.
And I used to get so many young Chinese people, mostly girls, would come up and just start talking to you, and they'd say, "Oh, can I help you?" And I found that all these young Chinese, what looked like kids to me, would always come up and help. Always.
That's cool.
And if I go into a McDonald's, because you go to what you feel safe with, so you go to McDonald's and KFC and stuff, and you go in there, and then a young person will come up and go, "Oh, can I help you with your order and everything?" And so the thing I found out is that a lot of them learn English. They learn English at school, but they never have anyone to practice their English
That's
with.
right, yeah. So the first Western guy they see, or Western, it doesn't matter, female, they're up for a yarn.
So as soon as they see a Western person, they want to practice their English with you.
That's cool. That's funny.
And like I knew a little bit of Mandarin, so I would kind of try and speak Mandarin to them, and they'd just go, "Oh no, it's okay. We speak English. We speak English." So,
funny.
It was cool.
That's cool, because they are just thinking back to my time. Yeah, they are helpful people when you're over there. Their services are unbelievable.
I mean, it's quite very, very different. I really like their approach to, their retail approach is classic.
Yeah.
Like you could walk into a shop, get a bunch of things, buy them, pay for them, walk out, and the person not once looks at you. The person serving you.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just a rinse and repeat type thing.
Yeah.
And that's fine for me. You know how I think in New Zealand we get a little bit tied up with the whole, what do you call it? Service.
Customer service.
Yeah, customer service.
Yeah.
We get a little bit over sort of. We get carried away with it. We think people should be nice to us all the time and ask us how our day is. Me as a shopper, man, I just want to get in, buy the fucking thing and get out. I don't want no small talk. So in China, it's perfect because nobody wants to talk to you. They just want to take your money and...
See, I'm the opposite. I want someone to engage with me while they're taking my money. Yeah. I'm paying for an overpriced product. I know I am. I'm paying for that person to stand behind that counter.
So you're milking all that customer service out of them?
Yeah, bro. I want a smile, I want a nice convo, and customer experience.
I'm a classic male, I'll Google what I want, find it at the shop, and I just want to go in, buy it, get out.
Oh, I mean, you've got to be accommodated for, I guess. You're a minority.
So I really enjoyed, the way that they do things in China. It fitted that perfectly. Yeah. There's no small talk.
There's not.
Yeah,
no.
And it's just like, this is what it costs. Thank you for your money. Here's your change. Out of there,
Whereas the Philippines is different again, I found, where they're very helpful.
Very helpful.
Like if you're going into a mall or like clothes shopping, like they're like checking sizes. It doesn't matter. It's just, it's very different service.
Very hospitable people.
Yeah,
the old Filipinos and Filipinas. Did you spend much time in the Philippines?
I spent 3 weeks over there. Whereabouts? Where did we go? Baguio.
Baguio.
Baguio, which was
I've heard of Baguio. I'm not sure
I
where
think
that
it's
is.
it's up in the mountains. 7-8 hours from memory. Drive from Manila.
Sheesh.
So you jump on a bus and
Wow.
Yeah, it was a cool
And
trip.
what did you do up there?
We were just like visiting. It was just a sightseeing trip, really.
Oh, okay.
So just going up there and did a whole lot of shopping, sightseeing and whatnot. It was pretty cool. It was actually really cool. Went through a few slums actually, so it was kind of like going through that stuff. And then remember learning about how they were. Oh, they're doing something cool with business. So these little businesses, and they're like pop-up business, and so they would be popping up everywhere, and they were like teaching the people in the slums how to make money and do transactions, and it was pretty cool. So it was that kind of it was a cool trip.
Cool.
And then back to Manila, but Manila's just
crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's overload for me.
Yeah.
Just too many people.
Did you ever go to Makati?
No,
Because that's kind of the more Western. It's like a really clean, quite different to the rest of Metro Manila.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a Westerner's paradise. You know, you have all the nice sort of fancy shops, nice eating places.
Yeah,
like very clean and westernized.
Yeah.
And then literally across the road from Makati, you've got like all the dire poverty.
Yeah,
it's like right in your face. Eh?
Yeah,
So,
we would have, because obviously you go and do the Western stuff when you're in Manila, but it was a bit of a whirlwind trip through Manila, so I don't really remember a lot from it. But it would be a place. Would I go back? Yeah, I probably would actually. I like the culture.
I love
amazing culture over there. So yeah.
I loved it there. I spent a lot of time there. In about 3 years. Was going over there probably at least once a month.
Yeah.
For work.
Yeah.
Mostly in Metro Manila, but also went to Cebu, Tagaytay, which is where this really cool volcano is. Because again, it was gaming areas that we would go and
gotcha.
And do stuff at. Clark Base, the old military base, American military base. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It would be cool, actually.
Well, I really enjoyed my time in the Philippines. I found them easily the most hospitable and friendly people all throughout Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the, we've got quite a community of them in New Zealand now. So, same, to me, it's the same culture.
Yeah.
They are really quite cool.
Oh, yeah, really cool. Oh, I'm sorry to any of my Singaporean friends out there. I have to admit that I think Singapore is on a par with the Philippines when it comes to hospitality. So really enjoyed Singaporean hospitality as well. Yeah.
Interesting. I never ventured over that side.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do a lot more travel there. Asia's fascinating.
Singapore's fantastic. One of my Singaporean friends, we would laugh about the weather forecast. It's the weather forecast every day for the next. He laughs. He goes, the weather forecast in Singapore for the next 100 days or the next 100 years is it's going to be fucking hot.
Yeah.
And when it's not fucking hot, it's fucking hot and fucking wet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I mean, it's not as hot as India, but it's hot. Like it's 100% humidity.
Yeah, I was going to say
probably
humidity.
28 to 30 degree temperature. So lovely, loved it, loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
I just loved all the time I spent around Asia.
Yeah. Lots to see, lots to do.
Yeah.
Lots of culture. That's what I sort of and the food. Love the food.
So aside from the Philippines, did you go anywhere else in the Asia Pacific region for holiday?
No. It's only really been your Philippines, China, sort of Hong Kong because it was a layover.
Yeah.
Sort of America, but no, nothing really sort of outside of that.
I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time in the whole Asia Pacific region. So for those of you listening may not know, but I used to live in Macau, which is like an old Portuguese colony from back in the day. and it's a 1 hour ferry ride from Hong Kong. So it's attached to mainland China, but it's its own SAR, self-administrative region, like its own country.
Yeah, yeah.
And with its own government, and and it's like
It's a gaming.
it's a casino mecca.
Yeah, that's right. It's
So the only thing in Macau, the only thing that is in Macau is casinos.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just, and so I used to work in that casino industry
Yeah.
for a few years, and well, I enjoyed my time in that, you know, and all the experiences I had. The work burned me out.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like too busy, and in the
Yeah.
end, I came back to New Zealand to get a work life balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How's that working out for you?
yeah, it's good.
Good.
Yeah, really,
So
really
you
good.
mastered it.
Yeah, I've
Perfect.
mastered it now because I work for a place that allows me to enjoy a work-life balance.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
work for local council.
Yes.
There's no focus on revenue generation at all. It's all the money that comes in is from the rates. So they're always consistent. It's always a consistent thing. So we're not chasing revenue, and so we're not having to hit sales targets or anything like that, which can be quite stressful at
Yeah,
certain jobs.
absolutely. Yeah.
So loving it, loving the easy life. 'Cause
That's good.
I used to live the fast life. It was way too fast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's nothing at the end of that road.
Yeah. So you worked in the real estate industry, right?
Yeah, so real estate when I was probably my main road to China was through the real estate, yeah, and sort of seeing that culture. But I guess working in Queenstown, because that's where I was, China wasn't sort of exclusive. You deal a lot with the UK,
Yep.
Australia a lot, America. India, we did quite a bit with India. That's just fascinating way of doing business.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'd ever want to do that again.
They're hard nuts to crack, the old Indian businessman, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's a way of doing it, and yeah, like it wasn't enjoyable for me. So,
Yep.
but in saying that, Queenstown gave you that because that's where I did real estate. Obviously, just gave you the opportunity of so many different cultures to deal with.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's the Kiwi way, but there's that person's way as well. Which depending where they're from, you've got to sort of play ball too.
I mean, quite honestly, I found subtle differences in working styles just within first world countries. There's a subtle difference to the way Americans approach work, to the way Australians approach work, to the way Kiwis approach work. So, I'm surprised at the differences. And British, I mean, I'd never worked fully with a lot of people from who worked for British companies. But I suspect it's not too dissimilar to probably Australian and New Zealand.
I would have thought the basics are there.
Yeah.
Probably work ethics, the biggest thing across the different cultures for me.
Yeah, I find Kiwis have a pretty good reputation for work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Especially in Australia. Australians get a hard, I think New Zealanders misinterpret the Australian sort of work ethic.
Yeah.
Because you often hear, I'm not sure if you ever hear it, but I used to hear it all the time. Oh, Kiwis work harder than Aussies. That's this whole thing that comes through.
Yeah.
In my experience, I understand where that perception comes from. It's because Australians, and I find this is probably a European attitude to work, is they will work under the right conditions. They demand particular work conditions.
Yeah.
And they find it unacceptable if those conditions are not met. And I think one of the problems is Kiwis tend to work, fuck it.
Any conditions.
Yeah, let's just suck it up and do it.
Yeah, if the pay's right, we'll do it.
Yeah, so they end up working under harsher conditions
agreed.
for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And because this is what happened to me when I worked in the Australian office. Is I suffered from this. So a lot of my Australian colleagues, they refused to work overseas for longer than, I think it was about 3 weeks, and that was actually written into standard procedures.
Wow.
And so after 3 weeks, our company had a duty to fly us back.
Yes.
You know, to our families. You know, so it's a very family focused thing. And what I found was, I would, you know, my boss would go, "Oh, Corey, if we fly you back after 3 weeks, we kind of will lose you for 1 week of the project." And I'm sitting there thinking about what's good for the project, and I'm like, "Oh, well, just leave me over there then." You know, like, I'm fine staying over there for, 6 weeks. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and so on the face of it, when you look at those optics, it sounds like the Kiwi guy works harder than the Australian guy because he's the one going over there. But really, all I'm doing is I'm breaking a sort of a protection or a protected rule, which is like we shouldn't stay for longer than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so, for me, that's where this bad perception comes from. Is Kiwis are willing to go past that barrier and do other stuff. So
because we don't have those levels of protection.
Yeah, well, we don't care. We're like, oh, what's more important, finishing the job, or your personal protections? My attitude is fully different now, because I'm all about living a work-life balance. I'm totally on board with that. We should only be going over there for 3 weeks. And then there's a duty to bring us back so that we can spend 1 week with our family, and then we can go back again. Like, I understand the attitude of doing that in order to give people work-life balance. It was my personal detriment that I said, you know what, I'll fucking go over there for six weeks. You know what, make it 8 weeks. So all I was doing was serving the company that I worked for, but I wasn't serving my own self-interest.
No, that's a negative.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, man, I learned my lesson because I got burned out because of it, and now I understand why we should always uphold employee protections, because they're there for a reason. Just because you can suck it up once doesn't mean you should tear it down all the time.
I agree.
So, bit of a soapbox rant.
I was going to say that lost us 10 minutes, but that's okay.
And so to bring us back to the subject, I suppose we'll probably wrap up soon. Actually,
I was going to say it's probably getting close.
Any final words on your experiences working abroad?
No, I think I just welcomed them with open arms. I was keen to jump in and try it, and loved every moment of it. There's lots of lessons to be learned, and lots of stuff that you can actually bring back and apply to the way you do things in New Zealand, and of benefit too. So
cool.
No negatives for me.
Would you jump back into a job that had you sort of dealing with overseas businesses or potentially travelling overseas?
Not now. No, I've done my dash. I've had my time in hotels and airplanes, and no, I like the home base. Let the young guys.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Grizzled old fools. We don't do that anymore.
I grizzle when I've got to stay at a hotel now. It's just, I don't want to do it. It's no enjoyment anymore. So,
however, in saying that, would you recommend it for younger people?
Absolutely. Yeah. For experience, to me, you'll learn more in the job doing those things than you will in a classroom. Learning customs and the way that business is done. In New Zealand, I think New Zealand too, because of the cultures we've got in New Zealand, we've got almost like a hybrid way of doing business as well now. So it's interesting. So I'd say absolutely.
Yeah, jump
do it.
Yeah, cool. Great tips. Great recommendations there. Bro. And so that's a little bit of a peek into both of our experiences in working working overseas or working abroad.
Same thing.
Same thing. Man, this chat could go on forever and ever, right?
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that.
Okay, do your thing.
Yeah. So, anyway, so if you have any questions, if you have any comments to make about our little chat about the times we worked overseas, pop them down into the chat box, and make sure to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on The Tube. Matawa.